the expensive one-time use ones. So it works just the same though. So we hit, anytime that you're selecting anything on this, if you see when I click alarm reset, it turns this thing on, which tells you have to confirm it to reset it. So, and it's just like Windows. If you want to get rid of a box, you click the X in the corner. So what we commonly do is we start ventilation. I have a test load on here. We can start ventilation before we have a patient on. In this case, the patient is on, but I'm going to show you a little bit about the settings. So the main settings you guys are going to see are what? What's the setting? What do they ask for? When they give you settings, what's your
600?
Yeah. Mode, the mode is SIMV. So that's synchronized intermittent mandatory ventilation. So in other words, what it is, we're going to give so many breaths per minute, and it's usually a minimum amount, like 10 or 12-ish. And then if they take their own breath, it's going to support their own breath. So if they want to breathe 24 times a minute, and you have a rate of 12 set, they're going to do 12 on their own, and it's going to give them 12 ventilator breaths. So it's kind of a weaning mode. You guys wean extremely fast over here, which is great. So SIMV will look like this. So anytime you touch something, you watch this button over here. Let me see, go back to that. So if I want to change something, I touch here, this thing lights up, which means it does not work until you confirm it. So everything kind of has to be confirmed. You can't just hit the screen and go. There's one thing you can hit the screen and go on, and I'll show you that in a second. So let's say you get settings, and I'm just going to leave what's on here. Tidal volume of 500, 50% FiO2, respiratory rate of 12, PEEP of 8, and pressure support of 10. So I'm not for sure if they always give you all of those, and they probably give you PEEP of 5, right? Usually 10 over 5. So all of our ventilators default to 8, and that's for a thing that we're doing in the ICU to decrease ventilator-associated events. So to change PEEP, somebody want to do that for me? Show me how you change PEEP. So you touch, adjust, adjust the dial, and then confirm with enter. So touch, adjust, confirm. Almost every change on here is touch, adjust, confirm. So that's perfect. So we changed it now to 10 over 5 and 500. So if you would happen to run this, if you started on your own, the RTs are coming down, that's probably, honestly, in patient care, 30 of PEEP is not a big deal. So if they start on 8, it's not a huge deal to go back down to 5. But that's one change that you may have to make if you plug it in. Now, a couple key components is you can see this does not have a compressor on the bottom. That's actually a battery. So it has to be plugged into air and oxygen. And if one of these is not plugged in, it will alarm pretty loud. And then we always plug them in, although they have a pretty long battery life on them. One cool thing about this device is we could plug it into that black box up there, and it could import into Cerner, because that's what we do in ICU. Since you guys don't have them on real long, it's kind of a lot of different clicks and transfers and things like that, so we usually don't do it. But if you have someone out for a long time, or for some reason we had a patient down here for a long period of time, for some unknown reason, we could run it through that box, and it would import to Cerner, which is kind of cool. Okay, so different things that you need to know. Okay, so common alarms that you're going to see. So this is the number one probably alarm, one of the main alarms you might see. If you notice, it initially says tidal volume high, and it says disconnect, because when the lung disconnected, and this is an elevating alarm, I will silence it real quick for us, but when it initially lets that initial amount of pressure out, it reads a high tidal volume because it goes to deliver and just keeps delivering, and then immediately after that it goes to disconnect. But right now it's not blowing a bunch of stuff out of here, which is nice because it says just disconnected. I'm not going to keep blowing air. That's 840 used to go keep blowing the air all over the place. So this is a red alarm, obviously. The cool thing is about Draegers is even if you're not in the room, you can still see that this thing red alarm from the back side. So it's they call it a 360 alarm, I think. If they don't, they should have. So anyway, if they goes back on, it actually starts ventilating again. So you can have them temporarily pop off or put an inline suction in, or they just pop off the endotracheal tube, hook it right back up, and it senses the patient and goes right back to the same settings you had before. The thing is that once the alarm is fixed, you see how it goes from red and it kind of blends into the background. Well, it's nice to kind of have these here because let's say you're at the desk and an alarm, you came over and then you see something's blending in the background, that's an old alarm. What I would do when you see the old alarm, and you guys are perfectly fine to do this, is say alarm reset, see it highlight our button right here, and then hit this and it clears off the top. So then you're all clear, so if it alarms again, you'll know about it. Our silence is still on. Another thing that I would really watch is before you leave the patient, make sure it's a toggle, so it goes on or off. Make sure you have all the alarms active before you leave. So ideally, I would have anything at the top before you leave the patient, because that means everything's active. So if I hit the silence, and this silence is something, if that same alarm reoccurs, it should alarm again. But sometimes it may not. Okay, it's not a glitch in the system, but it's just if something alarms quickly, you silence it, and that's what we like to do. We like to silence because that's a hard key, and we don't like the beeping in our ear, and it just escalates each time it alarms. So the next thing that you might see is a peak pressure alarm. So this might be a little more difficult to simulate. What would cause a peak pressure alarm?
Hey guys.
What might cause a peak pressure alarm? I think we're going to cause it here in a second, hopefully. What do you think? Like on a patient, what would cause a peak pressure? Biting the tube, waking up, anything like that, coughing against it. There we go. I coughed against it. So you see initial peak pressure, red alarm went off, and then it went back in the background, and you can see, oh, that was a high pressure alarm. They can do that when they start to wake up. So they can cough into it. There you go. And then it fixed itself. Now, if I keep peak pressuring, there we go. It will be really annoying and keep going. So, how do you fix your patient that's coughing? First thing you do is you silence this thing because you're standing next to them. So that's really annoying. And you can't think. You call respiratory is a good thing to do, but the main reason they're coughing is they're waking up or secretion, so they might need suction. So you guys do inline suction down here. Do we usually put inline on for your patients, or do we put it on after? Unless you're in ICU. So I'll show you the inline. I think you guys know. Do you straight suction then? If you're gonna suction somebody, straight catheter. So there's one really important part if you are gonna straight catheter or suction any of them, and I'll show you that. So that's the next button. So alarm silence, O2 suction button right here. It's like a 2-in-1 button. It's actually pretty cool. So in nursing school, you were taught to do what before you suction somebody? Hyperoxygenate, right? So hyperoxygenate decreases the incidence of arrhythmias. So O2 suction's right here. So I touch it, see my yellow thing turned on, and then I hit it. So it does two things right now. It says disconnect patient after oxygen enrichment. So you're going to see our FiO2 right here at 50%. It's going to go towards 100 really quick. So it's going to oxygenate them, hyperoxygenate them actually. And then what it allows you to do is, if you're straight suction catheter like you do, you can pop them off. Good. So, and now it allows you to suction them, but it has a countdown going on currently. And that countdown is right here, 109 seconds right now, and it's counting down. So if you do not reconnect them, it's going to alarm, okay? And if that 100 seconds comes out, you're not going to put a heavy suction them that long. But when you connect them back again, it senses them, and what it does is a final O2 enrichment. So it gives them a couple minutes, I think, of 100% oxygen, just kind of a recovery type thing, and then it'll go back to normal settings. So actually, it is 2 minutes. It's 120 seconds. It restarts the timer again. So right now, it's going and doing great. So that's a great way to suction. That's a great thing to use. You can still see this is still on. That will definitely mess with your blood gas. It's going to mess with your PaO2 and your blood gas. It's not going to mess with acid-base balance at all. unless you have them off for quite a while. So usually we like to have at least 15-20 minutes after an O2 enrichment before we do a blood gas. Ideally, all the books say 30 minutes to an hour. That's not realistic. The way I kind of relate it to, the oxygen's gonna, silence that real quick. It's either gonna cross the membrane into the blood, or it's gonna dissipate at the same rate. So you put oxygen on somebody before and watch their oxygen go up. You probably take an oxygen off somebody and watch it go down. That's the amount of time it really takes. I mean, it's usually within 5 minutes, but we like at least 10 to 15 when we do a blood gas. So those are old alarms. I can get rid of those. It says final O2 enrichment. It's kind of down 41 more seconds, and you can see this is still highlighted. So I want to show you this again. So if they're coughing again and you do that, this is the one downfall to this button. It's a great button, but it's a major downfall. So if they're coughing, they're peak pressuring, you're like, oh, you see some mucus coming up, they have a history of increased mucus production, and you go to suction them, and you use the button like this, and then you go to suction them, but somebody calls you from the desk or something, and you leave. So if they pop off during that time, it is not going to alarm. So if you're over here doing you turn around, the next alarm you're going to see is going to be your pulse ox alarm, probably, or hopefully not heart rate. So the pulse ox alarm is going to go off. So because right now this is normal for this machine, it thinks, okay, they're off, they're suctioning. So that's the only downfall. So let me get it all back to normal here. It's a great button, but it just comes with that one caveat. So we're back doing it again. Let's say we go to suction, hit the button, and somebody calls me, I need to go over there. I've hit this button, so I need to cancel it. So you just go in, touch it, confirm it, and it cancels it. Then if they pop off when they walk away, it's going to alarm. So, any questions about that at all? Has everybody done the touch, just, confirm? Actually, if you need to. Okay, so let's say that you need to wean your oxygen. So I don't know, do you guys call RTU wean oxygen? Or do you wean oxygen? You wean oxygen? Okay, good. So, oxygen's right here. So go from 50% actually to 40%. Touch, adjust, and confirm. Bingo. So you're going to see this is your measured value. That's going to slowly start going towards 40. That's exactly how you do it. So then you need 15 minutes or so before you can draw blood gas after that change. I think that's probably about it. The other mode that you're going to see, you see SIMV has a lot of components to it. That's what we're used to. And usually do you wean rate too? Did I ask you wean rate? Yeah. So wean rates can be the same thing as FiO2. It comes up as RR, touch, adjust, confirm. That's 4.5 breaths per minute. That's ridiculous. Even 5 breaths per minute is ridiculous, but that's okay. So that's how you wean rate, touch, adjust, confirm. This is one thing that can really help out. So let's say you put them on 5 and you notice they start desatting, and you're like, shoot, we need to take them off and ventilate them. In most cases, yeah, you need to take them off, use the back valve mask, you need to ventilate them. That's like the end all be all. If this thing's alarming, you're not sure what's going on, put the back valve mask on. We teach all nursing that. This has a really cool option on it though. If you look right here, it says manual inspiratory or hold. I can actually, this is the only button you don't have to confirm. I can manually ventilate them through the machine.
And it's the same pressure.
Yep.
Support.
It's all pressure controlled. Now, if you have a problem in your circuit, that's where it's really nice to take them off and use the back valve mask. But sometimes if we're weaning somebody and they're just not breathing on their own, commonly I'll go over here and give them a couple breaths. So you could do that. Just know you want them to be breathing on their own, obviously. But if you can give them a couple breaths through the machine, you can watch your pressure go up, you can watch your exhale total volume come out. And then the other button that I recommend, we have the O2 suction, we have the manual inspiration, and this bottom one's really nice because it's manual disconnect. So when we go to extubate, some of the RTs use this, some don't. I recommend it to everybody because every person that's worked with vents has been sprayed by vent juice before. Nobody likes vent juice spraying on them because it's kind of gross. You guys don't get as much juice as we do in ICU. But this manual disconnect right here, if we hit that and we confirm it, then what it does is wait for us to extubate. As soon as you extubate, it doesn't blow. So it actually is picking that up right now and it's saying manual disconnection on. It gives you, I'm not sure how long, like 30 seconds or so, to get back around and turn the vent off and things like that. So you've told the machine you're going to manually disconnect. So that's it right there.
Does it keep breathing though until you actually do it?
Yes, it does. Yeah. I think it gives you, let me go back and do it again. So manual disconnect. Please get disconnect patients. I thought it gave you a timer, but there must be a set time inside. So it's ventilating right now. It's going on fine. So commonly what I would do if I'm going to extubate, I'll get all my stuff ready. I'll go through the teaching with the patient. There we go. That popped off. Go through the teaching with the patient. I'll reach over, hit manual disconnect, and then I'll say, okay, now we're going to take the tube out. Take a big deep breath in. That is really key too. If you guys ever have to extubate somebody, I'm sure how, I know how we're taught in respiratory school, but when you pull the tube out, you want them taking a breath in during that time. Because your vocal cords naturally open when you're taking a breath in, but if you exhale, your vocal cords are closing, especially if you cough. So I've seen a lot of people, and not down here, but in the past, in my clinical experiences, I've seen people say, okay, now cough, and when they cough, they pull the tube out. That's not good because they're coughing, this is closing down, and you're pulling a tube through it. So the best thing is you say, on 3, I want you to take a breath in. So there you go, 1, 2, take a breath in, and when you see them like this, deflate the cuff, pull it out, and then they cough. After you get the tube past the cords, then you tell them to cough. But yeah, so it's always taking a breath in because your vocal cords naturally open, and it doesn't rub as much. So it's really important, and it's kind of, a lot of people will, have kind of fudged that over the years, but it definitely should be on inspiration when the tube's removed. So I think that is about it for this. You guys have any questions? Is that good? Help a little bit.
It has CPAP on it, right?
What's that?
CPAP too.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I can show you CPAP.
Because sometimes they have us do that.
Yes.
Lots of times they do that.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to talk about, this machine over here, where it's really nice for this. So auto triggering to be breaths. So if you look on it, this is our mode screen here. If you look on our mode screen here, we got SIMV on here, a bunch of different things involved with that. When I go to CPAP, I really only have 3 things. So I've got our FiO2, our pressure support, and PEEP. So I put them in CPAP, I activate it by hitting this, because you see, if I don't hit this enter button, then it will actually go back to SIMV. It's actually still in SIMV. So I click CPAP now. We call it CPAP and pressure support is what I do. It goes right there. So you can see that. But now you see they have to trigger every breath. When they trigger a breath, it gives them 10 centimeters of water pressure. So there's pressure support. So they're breathing on their own. It's just supporting their breaths. And this is what we usually extubate them from. So one thing that I'm always looking at with this is their exhale tidal volume. You want that to be about 8 to 10 milliliters per kilogram. Generically 450 to 700. So if they're taking little squatty volumes, it's not a good sign, because when they get small volumes and they get a high rate, that means they're failing. So you're looking for large volumes, and that's how you can coach them. Take a slow deep breath in. Slow deep breath in. Get some good volumes. Most of your patients strong lungs, they're taking 800, 900,000 volumes. So.
Yeah, you did. You did great.
So that's CPAP. That's the old extubate. So, and it's pretty simple. Now let's say that your patient stops breathing, has this long period of apnea in CPAP. Let's try to make it apneic. Apnea. So no pressure, no flow, no volume. My alarm's silenced from a high rate, but it should alarm again because it's a different type of alarm. It will in a second. But if I want to give them a breath, manual inspirations on that. So if you feel comfortable doing that, you can do that. And if you see they have good chest rise when you do it, that's nice to see. Other than that, you just take them off and use a bag valve mask.
Like good chest rise. Good chest rise.
So that button can help in CPAP, give them a couple extra breaths, can kind of work up a little bit. But you don't want to do that for a long period of time. So as you can see though, any trigger at all triggers a breath, so it doesn't take much. Cool. Great. Any questions about that at all? Alright, so to shut it off, RTL used to be here, but you touch this one right here, hit standby, and of course you gotta confirm it, and then immediately it's gonna give you an alarm, say, you know what you just did, and you gotta say okay, you gotta reset the alarm. So the next thing I'm gonna show you is this V60, and kind of how this V60 can be used as a ventilator. This is a BiPAP or CPAP, we'll do both. But these are V60. This is like the new BiPAPs. We actually have 12 of them in the budget for next year to try to get rid of the old brown boxes because they're not as reliable as these are. So it plugs in that oxygen from the wall. It actually, you can transport on it too. So we use these a lot on the floor for people that are on BiPAP or CPAP, to augment their spontaneous respiratory rate. And what it actually does, of course, it just gives them, each time they take a breath, it gives them extra volume in so they can get rid of their CO2, or we can help the oxygenate. The cool thing about this, though, it's got a battery backup and it's got the ability to transport. A lot of places use these as ventilators. So I would really like to try to transition to use this as the vent down here. Now that's kind of scary because you have to really use this thing, and it works really well. But this has a really cool mode on it, and so we're gonna probably over a few months or so, hopefully if I can keep it in the forefront of my mind, keep talking about using this because it works great as a ventilator. So it uses what we call, it's very similar to what the Puritan Vent 840 looks like, the ventilator, and it has pressure waveforms just like anything else. And you have your FiO2 on here, right here. So oxygen, you touch it, you can do this little thing where it actually adjusts up. Maybe not. So you go up on it like this, do what you want, hit accept, it'll increase your FiO2. You can also change your respiratory rate on there. Change the rate on there. And what this mode is, this is kind of a newer mode, it's called AVAPS. And what AVAPS is you say, okay, I want my patient wants 650, and it will fluctuate the pressure to get 650, which is really nice for spontaneously breathing patients. And then if they don't breathe at least 12 times a minute, it will give them a breath. So it's a breath every, 6 seconds? Breath every 5 seconds. So AVAPS is really cool. It actually would hook straight up to the endotracheal tube through this. Looks just like the hookup you have now. The only difference that you're going to have is there's a constant amount of air blowing out of here, and that's just circulation because you notice this is single limb and there's no internal circuit. So this constant circulating of air is how they exhale. So it's circulating through there. So that would hook up. This is a big contraption we did just to show 2 lungs. It won't look anything like that, but it looks pretty streamlined. And the HME right here, that's really important. That's heat moisture exchanger. So when they exhale into this, it moisturizes and heats that air. So when the air comes to them, it's heated and moisturized. It's not ideal like we use in the ICU where we heat the whole circuit, but it works well down here for you guys. So the cool thing about this is it's great for weaning. And as the patient starts to do more on their own, it lets them do more on their own. So,
They call in to get a bit set up.
yeah. Well, not yet. Yeah, I gotta clear up everybody. But then we're showing this kind of as a this could be coming. But this would be the one and then the great thing about it is that they bring them back and say, oh, they're extubated, let's get a BiPAP. Then you just take this off and stick a BiPAP mask on it. So it can be used either way. So you're not setting one up. Now that doesn't happen a lot, but it's nice to have that one type of machine. Now this AVAPS is really good. Set that volume that you want, hit accept. It's really pretty. It's all touch screen, which is really nice, and we use it a lot upstairs. And it's really like BiPAP. So you set a high pressure and a low pressure, and then a target tidal volume, and it kind of shoots for that tidal volume and fluctuates their pressure. Fluctuates their pressure to reach the volume that you want. So as they breathe more on their own, it's going to give them less pressure. So
So we have to have settings for all that and then
Yeah, so that's why we have to get clearance from them and say that and this is AVAPS, so this is, AVAPS is average volume adjusted pressure support. So you say, I think, this says they should be 645, or they usually say something like 649 or something. Oh, it only goes by fives. So 645, rate of 12, and they say 10 over 5. Well, we put 5 in as NIPPV, which is like a PEEP, and then it will, if they need 12 to get that, it'll give it. If they don't, it won't. So it kind of adjusts it for the patient. This is a new mode that's used quite often. And, so we'd like to try this in the future. It has the same type of alarms, so if they pop off, what I like it sounds, but it does sound a little bit different. And you can see high priority alarm disconnect, and once it fixes it, or once you fix it. So what we'd probably do is we would take one of these machines and we just call it a PACU machine, and we could set it up with generic settings. So when you turn it on, it comes up with the settings you want. So they could just say generic settings, and probably what you would do is you just come in and you just change the volume, and everything else would come through. The volume and the oxygen, maybe. Everything else would just come through. So.
if we set that up, is it on standby, like while we're waiting on the patient to come, so it don't?
Yeah, it's got a really cool standby on it. So if you hit the standby, it's like that disconnect button over there, where you just take this thing off. And it sits like this. It just kind of waits. Now the difference is with this one, you plug it in. Oh, it automatically restarted. And I always hit that just in case, but auto reset alarm. So we reset the alarms, and then you can go on right here doing this thing. So it'd be something we have to run through the anesthesiologist, but it's kind of using the more advanced modes that we have instead of putting a ventilator in everybody. This is a ventilator, but it's not doing the whole setup of this machine, and it's transportable too. So if they need to go to ICU, which is really rare, we plug in these 2 tanks and we push this alongside them upstairs, and then hook them up to one of our draggers upstairs. So something of the future that you might see with that. It can do mask ventilation and tube ventilation, integrated tube ventilation. So. Questions at all? Comments?
Are you gonna show CPAP and BiPAP on that?
Yeah.
Like
I can do that.
How the modes, when you hit that, it's kind of says it.
Yeah.
CPAP it does, but BiPAP.
CPAP, so it says CPAP on there, and so the term BiPAP is actually a trademark term, and it's not trademarked by these guys. So they call it ST, spontaneous timed. So yeah, that's fun. This whole AVAPS, so there's 4 different modes on this: PCV, pressure controlled ventilation; ST, which is BiPAP; CPAP; and then AVAPS is what we're doing now. So ST is right here. You touch it and it looks gray still. You're like, what's up? So you can make your changes in your settings here. Or if I go, for some reason our touch screen isn't working up there. Because usually if you go around a circle up here, it will take it down. So we go where we want it, hit accept. Right now it's not in that mode yet because you have to hit this thing that says activate ST mode. So when I activate it, there we go. You can see IPAP, PPAP, rate, FiO2, and it definitely sounds like BiPAP, really. So you hear the constant low pressure, and it's going to fluctuate up. If the patient starts a breath, there you go, you can see it's going to support their spontaneous breaths. So, and if they don't take a breath, it's going to give them that nice waveform of, right now 17 over 9. So what's your common setting you guys get? 12 over 6 or something? I think if they ask for this, that's kind of our generic go-to, even in the respiratory world. So there's 12 over 6. Now what I'd really like to do is have 1 or 2 of these machines that are set up just for PACU, so that when you turn it on, ST comes up at 12 over 6. So you don't have to change it at all. And then if you get AVAPS, it'll come up at all the AVAP settings that are usual, you'll change the volume, change the FiO2. So, low tidal volume, so for some reason we have XL tidal volume come back at 118, which is low because our alarm setting is 150. So, it's because we're breathing into these non-compliant lungs here. So. If you get into trouble with this one, and they have an intratracheal tube, of course you're going to manually ventilate. They have a mask, you're going to call respiratory anesthesia because they might need intubated at that point. But you can always go in, and when you go to the settings here, hit the FiO2 and just go all the way up to 100. Doesn't have that really nice button that does that, so it will give them up to 100 of oxygen and 100% oxygen now, so you can adjust it there. So this low priority alarms and low minute ventilation, not a huge deal. It's just because it's going below the alarm setting. So they have yellow alarms and red alarms on here too. If you want to get that off the screen, you can do that, or you can go to alarm reset, it clears it off. And the alarm silence is right there. It silences in 2 minutes. Cool, and then CPAP is super easy. Continuous positive airway pressure, activate, that's one pressure going in. You can see they can breathe whenever they want, but they're going to get one continuous pressure. It's going to read a respiratory rate. It does right there, that's a spontaneous respiratory rate. It's a pretty accurate one usually, a lot more accurate than your chest leads. So they're breathing on their own. The airway's being splinted. This little C-flex thing here, this is just, it's kind of it's a nice thing, but what it does, it's a comfort thing for the patient. So if I set a 3 C-flex on them, and they're set at 12 CPAP, when they exhale against it, it decreases, it flexes the CPAP down to 3 below 12, which is 9, so it's easier for them to exhale against it. It's something they commonly use at home CPAP units. So home CPAP unit will have C-flex, it'll flex down when they exhale against it, so it doesn't feel like they're exhaling against that full amount. It's just a comfort thing for the patient. So we usually don't mess with it in PACU, but if you hear about C-flex, or if you know somebody who's on CPAP at home, that's what C-flex is. And then if anytime you get standby on this and you take them off, leave it open, it should just shut off like that, and it'll kind of sit in this mode like this.
So
And
if we're
then-
estimating, it'll just quit blowing.
Yep, it'll blow initially and then it'll stop. And then if you occlude it, didn't start up, but if it feels back pressure onto it, like from a lung, it'll start on its own. Feels the patient push back against it. So. Right now, it gives you a countdown on that one. It says you have 60 seconds to extubate. So, and it'll sit in this mode right here until if they need to go back on. Cool. You guys good?
You do a good job.
Oh, thanks.